Hi everybody. Today as we move into this segment on psychological health, let me first introduce myself. I'm Dr. Vijaya Savithri, a practitioner of psychiatry in the city of Bangalore. It's amazing to see how many people today want to know or understand what psychological health is all about. How do we define psychological health? Why is it important for us to know about it? Let's see all this in this segment and more. A healthy body houses a healthy mind, and the reverse is also true. Today, in this segment of psychological health, we will try to unravel what this mind-body connect is really about. It does sound a rather complicated word, doesn't it? Mind-body connect? What could that be? Well, simply put, it denotes that the mind and the body influence each other pretty strongly. It's a two-way lane. When the mind is healthy, the body responds in a healthy fashion. Similarly, when the body is healthy, the mind too functions well. I would like to guide you through certain important aspects and tips on maintaining your psychological health. Firstly, what is this term psychological health and why is it gaining so much of importance today? In relatively simple terms, psychological health pertains to the health of the mind. Isn't it amazing we always think or worry about our physical health, but how often do we think about our psychological health? Isn't being fit in the mind as important as having a physically fit body? Invariably, while we care for our body so lovingly, we very often ignore the mind, not realizing there is a very strong mind-body connect. And what is this mind-body connect? It sounds rather complicated, but it is really not so. Simply put, a healthy mind and a healthy body go hand in hand. A healthy mind gives positive signals to the body to function well. Similarly, when the body is functioning within normal limits, it sends again positive signals back to the brain and we end up feeling very good. All this sounds rather scientific, medical, and a little boring, maybe. To make it easier for you to understand, I will give you a very simple illustration. How does one feel just before entering the examination hall? And how many of us have gone through this umpteen number of times in our lives? We feel so uncomfortable, so anxious, so nervous. Yes, definitely visiting the washroom many times, and it eats into that time. And it's certainly a nuisance. This is a classic example of the mind influencing the body. When there is heightened anxiety, the brain releases certain impulses which go all the way down to the urinary bladder and stimulate it, increasing the sensation of wanting to void urine. This is one important way of seeing how the mind definitely influences the body and the body behaves exactly according to the signals sent out by the brain. Now, let's also examine and see the converse is true. Does the body actually influence the mind? We always seem to think the mind or the brain is the control center. So how is it that the mind actually responds to the body? You may not believe it, but it actually does so. A simple example, on a day that you're down with flu or say viral fever, or you're laid in bed with typhoid or arthritis or diabetes hits you, do you think you feel good about it? Do you think you feel comfortable when your body is not functioning well, when your body is suffering? I don't think so. You need to have a physically fit body to feel good in the head. You can also understand what each part of the brain does, which is the part of the brain which is important for storing memory, which is the part of the brain which develops language, evolves language, which is the part of the brain that helps us retain our balance. So there is a part of the brain which controls the breathing and the heart rate. There is a part of the brain which controls our hunger, our sleep, thirst. So it performs a whole range of complex activities, and there are minute areas in the brain which are neatly segregated for various initiating and maintaining various activities in the body. What we see is the anatomical structure of the brain. It performs various functions. The structure of the brain is more important probably to the neurologists and the neurosurgeons. They understand it better than probably psychiatrists do. Nowadays, the borders between these various disciplines are merging, and even psychiatrists are beginning to understand that the functioning of the brain is very, very crucial to be able to treat patients with all kinds of psychological problems. In the field of psychiatry and in psychology, we don't keep referring back to the brain every time. We say the mind controls the behavior, the mind controls the speech, the mind controls the emotions. Are we talking about two different things? The mind and the brain are not the same? No, definitely not. They're one and the same. But whereas brain is normally conceived as an anatomical structure which controls various parts of the human body, the mind is a more abstract concept. The mind also needs the brain. In one sense, you can say it is a synonym for the brain, because all the thinking processes, the emotional processes, the language, the memory, everything originates in this part of the body. The mind is more like abstract representation of the brain. We go one step higher and we attribute a lot of motivations, a lot of morality, choosing between the right and the wrong, the ability to love people, hurt people, ability to be good or to be bad. We attribute all these and many more things to the mind. Probably the best exponent on what the mind is all about and what the mind actually does or behaves or wants, probably the best exponent in trying to analyze the mind, as we believe, was probably Freud. There are many more later age psychologists who have different interpretations, and ultimately what we in psychology and psychiatry try to understand is primarily motivation, behavior and emotions. It's not like removing the kernel from the coconut shell and saying this is the coconut and this is the shell. The mind and the brain are ultimately one and the same. Would you all agree that the most sensitive and the most intelligent machine ever made was man? Most certainly yes. It's quite a complicated machine with many parts, many functions and many dimensions to it. And yet it keeps ticking. The heart always beats 72 times per minute. Very rarely does it waver from this count. So how was all this engineered? How did it all fall into place so perfectly? Yes, the software for running the human machine definitely lies in the brain. Just with other machines, even the human body does show signs of wear and tear. It needs perfect maintenance. How do you maintain your human body in a perfect running condition? You observe that when a machine lies unused in a corner, it invariably stops functioning well. Similarly, with the human body, you need to keep it in perfect ticking condition by a bit of daily routine exercise. Exercise could be in the form of any physical activity. A daily dose of exercise, be it gymming, walking, jogging, running, swimming, playing a sport, or even doing yoga. On this note, I will leave you, and we'll have more to talk about this same subject when we get back.